Welcome to the NBA Triple Double Show powered by SportsMemo. I'm your host Ronald Cabang from Wager Talk and you at UCapper Sports on Twitter. I'll be joined by Moneyline Matt from SportsMemo and Jeff Michaels from Wager Talk. Today we'll be talking about the look ahead to Game 5 of the Heat and the Celtics. Before we get into that game though, I do want to talk about what we got going on over at SportsMemo and Wager Talk. We have the free live odds page. We got the deals page. Cappers provide free picks and analysis on a daily basis, along with their daily packages that they do have for sale as well. Tomorrow is Thursday. It's the I think it's called Throwback Thursday, where all the picks and packages are 50% off over at Wager Talk. And then obviously you can go get Matt's stuff over at sportsmemo.com. With that said, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button here on this channel before you go on YouTube. It only helps our show grow here as we continue to close out the NBA season. With that said, let's get Matt and Jeff up here with me. What is good, guys? You know how it is. We always like to start the show being transparent here. Game 4 of the NBA. I didn't touch it. I did not touch it. I was looking. Me and Matt had a show on Monday, and I was leaning towards Miami and the team total over. I just couldn't get there. I couldn't get there with it. But you're in Game 5. I do have something going on, so we'll see how it goes. Uh, Jeff, let's go to you here. How's everything been going here in the NBA?
Yeah, I can't complain. I was there with you. I skipped over game 4. Wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen, but didn't want to go against those Celtics with their back against the wall. But been a pretty even week, sitting right about 500, down just a little bit on the units, but got a big MLB play up tonight too, and looking forward to game 5 tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I did actually I forgot to talk about the Lakers game. I forgot to talk about the Lakers game. Obviously, they got swept. I had a big play on the over 224 and a half, I believe, and it ended up at 224. I couldn't believe they didn't foul in the last, whatever 20 seconds there. They believed in their defense and was thinking that they were going to be able to stop them and score with about 2 seconds left between the shot clock and the game clock. I thought that was a tough call there for the Lakers to do that. But going to Matt here, how's everything been going this week?
Yeah, in terms of game by game picks, they've been okay. In that Laker game, we went 1-1. Not gonna lie, I was on the Lakers -3. I was also on LeBron James. LeBron James went off, so that was nice. But the Lakers just once again did not get it done, and I'm not gonna hide from it. I had some futures on the Lakers, and those blew up in my face. I was pretty confident in the Lakers, and it didn't go good at all. So luckily, yesterday I did have 2 plays. I was on the Boston Celtics money line. That was nice. And then I was also on Jason Tatum points, so that was nice. And then have Tatum series future bets in terms of Jason Tatum top point scorer, Jason Tatum top rebounder. So hoping those will land, get some units back. And we got another game to talk about and break down, and there's going to be opportunity there. So trying to get some of these units back and ready to break it down with you guys.
Yeah, let's get straight into it. We got Heat Celtics game 5 here. Obviously, Celtics took care of game 4 pretty convincingly too in Miami. Now they're going to be in Boston. Boston, they played really great defense, something that we didn't see in the first 3 games there. Miami shot only 44% from the field. Also created 15 turnovers that led to 27 points, both highs for the series for Boston's defense. Also, Boston finally got the 3 ball going too. Going into game 5 here, do you think Boston picked up enough momentum to get it done here in game 5 and force a game 6? Also, let's go to you, Matt, here. Do you see anything else from a betting perspective that you can take advantage of here?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. I do think the Boston Celtics picked up enough momentum to make it to potentially Game 6. Because in reality, you just need to get Jason Tatum going, and now they need to get Jaylen Brown going a little bit. And to your point, though, Ron, they definitely picked up defensively. They were getting a lot more loose balls. They were turning the ball over from the Heat a lot more as well. So just a lot. There's a lot more focus, a lot more hustle, a lot more defensive presence out there. And Jason Tatum needs to be that guy to taking high volume shots, getting to the basket, things of that nature. And this was also a game where Malcolm Brogdon didn't play that well. So there's still room to grow for this Boston Celtics team. And for me, one angle that I was looking at was actually Jimmy Butler in Game 5. Jimmy Butler really seems to pick up the volume when he goes on the road to Boston, or even looking back at the Milwaukee series, stuff like that. Twice this series, when they were in Boston, he took 25 shots in both games. So it really seems like it's one of those spots where Jimmy starts to take on the volume, tries to kind of pick up the slack, take the responsibility to try and get that game on the road. So I do expect another high volume output from Jimmy Butler. I believe his line is 28.5, 29.5, somewhere in that vicinity. I haven't touched it just yet. But if you're going to give me 25 shots, that's a pretty good bet right there to go over with Jimmy Butler. For me, though, when I look at this line, once again, it's an 8-point spread, just these huge lines. And it's tough not to go with the Miami Heat there when there's that many points. So personally, I do believe the Boston Celtics picked up enough momentum to take this to a game 6. And honestly, I'm personally not ruling out a game 7. And maybe that's foolish of me after everything that we've watched with the Miami Heat. But this Boston Celtics team really is the better overall team. The Heat are the hotter team. But when you look and you break down these rosters from top to bottom, the Celtics are the better team. And you would think that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can go out and potentially get a game just on their own. So for me, once again, maybe it's foolish. Maybe I saw one game and I'm thinking too much into it. But again, before this series started, when you broke everything down, it was Boston. And I do think they can get it at home, keep the momentum going. But in terms of points, I would be with the Heat there. 8 is a lot.
Yeah, we talked about it on Monday too. We talked about how Coach Mazzulla mentioned, he lost the locker room and everything like that, but they did look together in that game 4 there. Maybe they put things aside and that's what they needed to do. They probably talked it out and got it done for game 4, and maybe they just kind of hash it out for the rest of the series or the rest of the playoffs, whatever, however long they last. But for the most part, I tend to agree with you here. I mean, I think Miami this could be a situation where Miami can cover the large spread, but Boston still win. Miami's been really good on the road this whole postseason, anyways. 5-3 straight up, 6-2 against the spread. Also 7-1 to the over. If you're looking towards the total, also coming off a loss in the postseason, they have yet to lose a game. 4-0 straight up, 3-1 against the spread. But on the opposite side of the total, 3-1 to the under in that situation. So that's where it kind of goes opposite ways with the trend. But Boston. I think going from road to home this postseason or home to road, whenever it's a situation where there's travel involved, Boston tends to struggle on the defensive side of the ball. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to lose. It just seems like on the defensive side of the ball, the opposing teams tend to score a little bit more in that situation. They're going to have to play, pretty much like every game in the series like it's a game 7. And we saw how game 7 went for Boston versus Philly, right? They played like intense defense. I think Philly scored less than 90 points that game. So that maybe the trends kind of go away and obviously the defensive intensity picks up, but we'll see here. I mean, trends kind of all over the place. If I was really to place a bet on this one, I would say take Miami with the points, maybe a lean towards the over for the full game. Like I said, I think it's possible we see a situation where Boston wins the game and Miami can cover the large spread. And if it does stay really close, maybe free throws will come into play and push this slightly over the low total here. Jeff, let's go to you here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Ron, you and I are these trends and angles guys, especially we like looking at those and diving deeper into them. Playoffs kind of throw those for a loop, but I got 2 crazy ones here that I'm going to throw at you, and we're going to use them in a little bit of a different way than you and I normally do. I'm not just talking about this game 5. Take a look at the historic, for lack of a better term, run that this Miami team was on. So before game 2 of this series, but this was off of actually my dad's Twitter. Teams were 0-29 straight up as a dog of 7 or more after winning game 1 as a dog of 7 or more. Miami ended that streak. They're now 1-29 straight up. Teams were also 1-28 straight up as a dog of 4 or more points as a 6, 7, or 8 seed when they've had 3 series wins. And they did that one back against Milwaukee. So those 2 trends that we looked at that have told you pretty convincingly to bet against these Miami teams combined for a 1-57 straight up record before Miami turned both of those around and added 2 more wins there. So as much as I love these trends and angles, the only one that I'm going to throw at you for game 5 9 straight ATS wins for Miami after a head-to-head meeting that they were held under 100 points. So that does go back to the regular season, not always going to be consecutive games. But after a team holds Miami under 100 points, when they play them again, they're a 5-point dog on average. They're winning by over 8 points per game. So they're really bouncing back when those teams are holding them under 100. But I do, again, in this situation, find it hard to bet against Boston. I mean, you can't really look at trends and angles as much in the playoffs, in my opinion, at least, because you're playing the same team 7 times. By the 5th game, 6th game, whatever it may be, you can kind of throw those out because you're learning on the fly. You're growing and you're improving your play based on what the team throws at you over that sense. And Coach Mazzulla, who stepped up for Boston, looks like he may have his job on the line here. There was talk about Coach of the Year, obviously, with stepping in an interim spot and leading Boston almost straight to the top of the East. And now they're down 3-0, or they were down 3-0. They did come away with a win, but they're coming back home, and I don't think that Missoula can afford a loss there. So I would be with Miami on the points. It's hard to bet against either one of these teams, in my opinion. My best bet's on a player prop that I do like in this game. Even a lot of opposite side trends and angles that are pointing you both ways, and if you step away from the trends and look based off of recent play, it's hard to go against Miami. So when they're that close and the line is 8 points, I'm going to take the dog. Give me the 8 points and Miami here, but I do think Boston pulls out a win straight up.
Yeah, I think so. It seems like we're all in alignment here between the three of us. One thing to Sorry, someone saying something. My bad. Jeff. Sorry, Matt. I want to go to you real quick. I want to talk about some hypothetical here. If we, obviously we know who's gonna go on the West, right, to the finals. We got the Denver Nuggets, but hypothetical situation here. Celtics create history, right? They go down 0-3 and end up winning the series, or Miami wins the series, right? Who would be the better matchup with Denver? Boston or Miami?
Oh man, that's a good question. I personally would have to say Boston, just for the fact of how deep they are. They have the better overall play. Jimmy Butler's playing at a historic level, but with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both of them being able to, it's 2 guys who are 25 plus point scorers. And really, what beat the Lakers here, like we talked about, Ron, was the play of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray.
Mm-hmm.
It was those two versus LeBron and AD. And then if you have those two and then they're going against a team like the Miami Heat, and it's really just Jimmy Butler, and then I know Bam Adebayo has elevated his level of play, Gabe Vincent and some of those guys. But when you're going against a team like the Denver Nuggets, you have those 2 guys. You have Jokic, and then you also have Jamal Murray, who can really fill up the basket and do plenty of other things in terms of assisting, rebounding, stuff like that. Then you have guys like Michael Porter Jr., who, if he's open, he's a streaky knockdown shooter. Aaron Gordon, a very big defender who could probably match up well against Jimmy Butler. Like, that's a difficult matchup for Jimmy Butler right there. Maybe one of the better defenders that he would face throughout the playoffs. So for me, I do think the tougher matchup for the Denver Nuggets would be that of the Boston Celtics. You can throw a couple multiple things at Jokic there too. You can throw Robert Williams and Al Horford at him in traps. I just think you have a little bit more versatility from the Boston Celtics side than that in comparison to the Miami Heat. Because as we know, with the Miami Heat, it's going to be Bam Adebayo against Jokic. If he fouls Jokic or gets in foul trouble, then you're going against, is it Zeller, the backup, I believe?
Yeah, Zeller.
Zeller's coming in off the bench, and Jokic is going to have his way there, and there's just not as much depth. So it's tough, just because the Miami Heat are on a historic run. They've proved me wrong series after series after series, but it's tough. It's tough not to go with Boston there, to think that the better matchup for the fans and things of that nature would be there. I think that would go longer. I think it would be tighter. It'd be tough not to give Miami a game or 2 here, but for me, I think Boston Celtics would be the better matchup for the fans, better matchup to bet on, same game parlays, things like that. So for me, I would be with the Celtics.
Yeah, Jeff, I kind of agree there. I mean, obviously, it's going to be tough for Boston to pull it off, right? They're going to have to win four straight against Miami, who's been playing out of control, like out of their minds, especially Jimmy Butler. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you think the Celtics as well would be the better matchup? But obviously Miami has a better chance of getting it done. So we'll see how it goes. But what are your thoughts on that as well?
I don't, the more I listen to Matt, the more I really am convinced that the West is gonna win this thing. Let's put it that way, because I think, I do. The only reason really that I can say Miami is, or excuse me, Boston, is because I don't think Philly was quite as good as Denver is, but from a matchup kind of perspective, from a roster look, from a guarding Joel Embiid versus guarding Joker kind of aspect, Miami hasn't seen a whole lot of center dominated play really. So I do think that Boston has a little more experience there. But if Boston shows up at all, like they've shown up in this series, I don't really think that makes it that difficult of a finals run. I mean, obviously Boston is an impressive team, but it actually kind of leads me into my best bet. But Bam Adebayo, I think, has been two completely different players between a win and a loss. So it really depends on, kind of which Adebayo you get, because if you got the one that we've seen in the wins that's put up 50 plus PRAs, in potential road games with their backs against the wall kind of situation, I really think Miami's the tougher team, especially at the center position. But longevity, what we've seen throughout the entirety of the season, yeah, Boston's definitely going to be the tougher test in my opinion.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's crazy to think about it, but obviously, I mean, like I said, Miami has a better chance. Obviously, with this one, with them only needing one win out of the next three, it's definitely possible that Boston can do it. But I think one way to look at it too, guys, is if you think the West is gonna win, maybe take a stab at looking at Jokic MVP odds, Finals MVP odds at the current number, and see if that's going to be worth it as far as like being able to get better value on a series play. Jeff, you look like you got something else to say.
Yeah, I was going to toss one more thing in there. We actually talked about this. We were on the show last week. After the show went off air, we threw this out there. Speaking to the depth aspect too, I heard rumors, I believe, that Tyler Hero has technically been cleared for basketball activity as well. That does not mean, obviously, he's going to be back in this series, but that
Mhm.
does mean that there would be a potential for a little more depth there coming out of the Miami team, in a potential
True.
finals run against Denver.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things about Tyler Harrow there. I was like, initially I heard that he was gonna come back as well. Obviously, you just mentioned he's cleared for basketball activity, but I think I saw yesterday somewhere. If I gotta find where that clip is, but what I heard it was that he's not gonna come back, whether or not they make it to the finals. From that's what I heard, but obviously things can change with especially in the NBA. We know how all that stuff goes with them there. But with that said, guys, that's obviously the hypothetical question I wanted to bring up since we have a short show. I wanted to get you guys' take on it, but let's go to the best bet section, guys, and what you got going on over at on your site as well. Matt, let's go to you here first. Best bet and what you got going on over at Sports Memo.
Yeah, so right now over at Sports Memo, I have one play loaded for Game 5, Heat and Celtics, and when you look at this game, there's some trends that you can take in terms of player props with guys with their backs against the wall, stuff along those lines. We talked about Jimmy Butler a little bit. Jimmy Butler getting 25 plus shots in both games in Boston, so I do think he's a good look if you're looking for another prop. But for me, I'm actually going to go back to Jaylen Brown here. Jaylen Brown has not been playing up to his level of play the entire series. He's actually missed this number 22 and a half in 4 straight games now, obviously all against Miami. And it's kind of weird because in the regular season, he was averaging over 30 points per game against the Miami Heat. And now he's looking to essentially bounce back 4 bad games in a row, part of the Boston Celtics struggles have definitely been because of Jaylen Brown. They've been because of Marcus Smart and their inability to score the basketball. Marcus Smart kind of got it going in game 4, and now it's really up to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is shooting in this series 39%. Before this series, he was shooting more along the lines of 54%. So really, they're going back home in Boston. They know they need to get him going. His line has actually come down. His line throughout the playoffs has been as high as 25.5. Now it's down to 22.5. And I think it's a good spot to jump on it, get some Jaylen Brown exposure because, again, this is one of those spots where their backs are against the wall. They're going home. I think he's going to see 20-plus shots in this game. And, again, when you're getting 20-plus shots in a game, your odds to hit something 22.5 point total is going to be pretty good. I even checked his 25-plus points. That was plus 130. And, guys, this is Jaylen Brown. We know what he's capable of. We know how streaky he can be as well from behind the arc. So if you see a couple threes go down, I think this is going to be a very, very good bet. And, Jason Tatum also, I do like the look of him, but his line has elevated to 30.5. I think that's a little inflated at this point in time just because he's coming off of the big game 4. So now I think they're going to be looking to Jaylen Brown to get it going a little bit more. That price is a little more respectable to me, one that you can definitely take advantage of a little more. And by tip-off, I would not be shocked to see it at 23.5. So if you want the 22.5, I would do it earlier rather than later. So for me in this spot, it's going to be Jaylen Brown over 22.5 points.
I like it there. I know they do a lot. They're a lot better offensively at home as well. So this is going to help that out as well. I'll go next here. Well, obviously my best bet here is going to be a premium play. Like I said, usually when I have a best bet on the show, it's likely a premium play. And so I'm going to give that out here today. It's going to be the Heat team total over 103.5. That's the way that I'm looking here. One thing I noticed with the Celtics this postseason when traveling from road to home or home to road, they tend to struggle on the defensive side of the ball in those games where travel is involved. They allow 111.9 per game, but allow 107.8 when there is no travel involved. So if they're playing home to home or road to road, those are the situations where their defense kind of picks up. Lack of defense is really the reason why they're 7-2 to the over in that specific situation where there is travel involved. On the Heat side, they've been playing extremely well on the road this postseason. 5-3 straight up, 6-2 against the spread. But more importantly, 7-1 to the over. 7-0-1 to their team total over as well. So they have yet to fail. Yet to fail going over their team total. Their team total for Game 5 is 103.5. They've gone over that number in 13 of their 17 games so far in this postseason. So for me, whether they win or lose, I expect a bounce back offensively after putting up less than 100 points here. Last time they put up less than 100 points in the playoffs, the following game they put up 123. Obviously, I don't think they're going to put up 120 plus, but 103.5 is definitely doable here. So I expect, like I said, a bounce back offensively. My team 3.5 is my best bet there. On the premium side today, I do only have one play. It's going to be in the MLB. That's over there and up and available on wagertalk.com. Let's go to Jeff here. What do you got going on for your best bet today for today's show? And what do you have over at wagertalk.com?
Yeah, thanks, man. I kind of said it. Bam, I'm looking at Bam Adebayo, and normally I come in here, my best bets, I'm looking overs because we've seen a lot of points scored, obviously, in this playoffs. But I'm looking at Adebayo to stay under that 29.5 PRA number. I said it when we were talking about the Nuggets. Adebayo has been two different players in the wins and losses of the Heat. And, while there has been a lot of consistency with Miami, obviously, recently, there's also been a lot of inconsistency in terms of the trends. Their losses on the road have gone over, their wins have stayed under, have gone over, So if you don't like the side, betting against Boston here, the most consistent thing with Miami has actually been Adebayo in these losses. All four of their losses in the postseason, he stayed under this number. And, as good as Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin off the bench have been for this team, from the opposition standpoint, stopping Adebayo has really basically been the key. because they're not able to space the floor quite as much. They don't have to worry about the paint when he's not attacking, when he's not able to score as much, and they can, face their focuses on the other players on that Miami team, like Jimmy Butler, for instance. But I do think, we mentioned it before. I do think Boston wins this game. So I do think that they stop Adebayo here too. I think there's potential for points to be put up, but I do think I'd be looking at those other guys, those Vincents, those Martins, those Jimmy Butlers, that kind of look, because stopping Adebayo really makes this team a little more one-dimensional, and I think that that's what Boston's going to have to do, especially facing elimination on their home court in what could be a do-or-die game for Missoula if he drops this series at home. So while he may not be their most effective scorer on Miami, I think he may be the focus of the Boston defense here and shutting down his ability to score and making this team a little more one-dimensional, not to mention how impressive Tatum's been on the rebounding aspect here too. So you obviously get a bigger number here, adding those points, rebounds, and assists with Adebayo. So I'm going to say under that 29.5 and say he doesn't break 30 in game 5.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point there that you mentioned how important Bam is. For them to stop Bam because of what he does in the high post, the way he plays the high post, is pretty good. I mean, I feel like he's able to facilitate and do all those things there. If they stop him from the offensive boards and putbacks and stuff like that, he's definitely going to stay under. They're probably going to have to trust, like you said, guys like Vincent and Strus, and obviously Jimmy Butler is going to do his thing. But we'll see how Game 5 goes, guys. We gave out our best bets. We talked about possible situations and everything like that. So I thought we did a pretty good show with limited, obviously limited games. We only got one game. And then it's on to the NBA playoffs, unless Boston can continue their winning streak here to go 7 games. I would actually like it to go 7 games, to be honest, because it's a really good series. To be honest, I think it's a really good series, and it's going to show us what Boston's made of. And that's going to be good for their legacy as well. I mean, we'll see how this team move forward if they lose in Game 5. But with that said, guys, we'll see if we have a show on Friday. If we do, it'll be on 10 a.m. Pacific Standard on the same channel. We'll have myself, Moneyline Matt, and Tony Finn. Till then, guys, good luck with all your action. Peace.